5 miles, Angel 6.
Roger, that's the only one I've got right there where the pointer is.
Well, welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is the DCS SITREP, and I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog, and as always, I do hope this video finds you well today as we dip into another newsletter from Eagle Dynamics discussing what's going on in the DCS world, and we have 3 new campaigns planned for the next open beta patch, which should be next week if everything goes according to plan. Typically, the end of the month is when we get major open beta patches. We have a couple of other things to discuss as well, some other features coming. So let's begin with one of those, which is a competition for the MOSQUITO. This is the FB Mark 6 variant that is available in the game and in the eShop. And this livery competition began yesterday, the 24th, and will run for a month through to March 24th of this year. Now the top 10 submissions will have their skins integrated into DCS, and their names will also be included in the official MOSQUITO FB6 manual, so quite the privilege there. Now the requirements for the skin are as follows. It must be created using the linked template, and I will put in a link in the description below for you if you are unable to find it yourself. The livery must be based on current or historic schemes from any MOSQUITO variant, and it must be associated with one of the countries currently present in DCS World. All 10 winners will receive a free Eagle Dynamics module that can also be given as a gift to any DCS account. So please read the instructions, or the entry details at least, which I will also put the link to in the description below, again, to help you out there a little bit. Lovely little plane too, the MOSQUITO, and I regret not having enough time to get into it properly. It is a little bit tricky to fly. Trying to get my control set up to get it off the ground easily takes a little bit of practice. It's quite a quirky little aircraft, and the double engines there, or the twin engines, make it a little extra tricky as well. But once it's in the air, golly gosh, it's a great little aircraft. And of course, such beautiful lines, and it does have quite the history, which we will talk about in a little bit here. But first, let's take a little look at a new feature for the Warthog. This has been promised for some time, and that is the ARC 210 radio, which is the final key feature of the DCS A10C2 tank killer, and it's planned, as they say here, for the next open beta patch. This replaces one of the 2 VHF radios on the left console and provides UHF and VHF modes that can also be programmed from the COM page on a multifunction color display. The ARC 210 can also be controlled from the upfront controller, or UFC, and display the current setting on the HUD, which is pretty cool. Following the initial release of the ARC 210 with UHF and VHF modulation, the satellite radio functions will also be added in addition to other DCS aircraft that support satellite radio communications. Very cool. The ARC 210 will be fully compatible with integrated voice chat system, which is also very handy. Chain and I from the Air Warfare Group spent quite a bit of time last summer in the A10C2 getting to grips, and I must say I did not really scratch the surface in getting to fly this aircraft and understanding it. It is a very, very sophisticated aircraft. Even without a radar, it's got a lot of sensor equipment which can be used to target hostile ground objects. It is a great ground pounder, a lot of fun to fly. You're not going anywhere in a hurry, but things do happen pretty quickly once you get into the thick of things. I really do enjoy flying this really powerful aircraft. Obviously, it can carry a lot of stores, and we still have the #1 feature, which is that mighty big gun, which is always a nice default. When everything else isn't quite working out, you can certainly do a lot of damage with that. Of course, it's designed to take a hit or 2 as well. And if you're interested in real-world events for this aircraft, do check out Wood Carroll's interview with Casey Campbell, aka Killer Chick, who recently produced a book on her experiences of almost getting shot down over Iraq, and her flying skills were put to the test in getting that aircraft back. The fact that it even survived was testament to just how well made this aircraft is. Largely unreplaceable, although unfortunately the world is moving on, and the days of the A-10 may be numbered here, unfortunately, as the Air Force and Navy and Marines move to a common platform in the form of the F-35 and its variants. And that is also the subject of a rather interesting video with Ward Caro and Paco Benitez. If you want to learn more about just the direction in which air warfare is going, that's a really interesting interview.
Alpha 1, ID Alpha 10,000. And back we go.
Well, as I mentioned before, we have 3 new campaigns, and we'll start with the V for Victory campaign by Reflected Simulations for the Mosquito. Now, the campaign includes thrilling missions like Night Intruder, Ranger, Pathfinder, and Photo Reconnaissance, to mention just a few. According to the blurb here, it also contains accurate recreations of some of the most iconic Mozzie missions of the war. Thus, you can help prisoners escape from the Amiens prison. You can bomb the Gestapo headquarters and attack the radio station as Reichsmarshal Goering is delivering a propaganda speech, one of the great coups for the Royal Air Force during the war period. You could actually hear the air raid sirens going off in the background during that speech. They quickly had to change the program and started playing music as the Reichsmarshal was ferried away to another safe area. So again, quite an interesting piece of history there. So put on your Irvin jacket, climb into the cockpit, and see if you have what it takes to be the leader of a Mosquito squadron. The campaign consists of 12 historical and semi-historical missions, nearly 1,000 specially recorded voiceover messages and radio broadcasts, historically accurate liveries, and much, much more, as you'd expect from a Reflected Simulations campaign. In fact, he did reach out to people on Facebook for New Zealand voice actors as well for some of his campaigns. I was unfortunately too busy to do that, plus my accent, I don't even know what it is these days. It's a mix of Minnesota and New Zealand. It's definitely softened over the years, having been in the States for about 17 now, so things are a little less New Zealand-y. Sadly, I need to go back for an injection of Kiwiana. Bring it back a little bit. It always comes back after I go back for a few weeks. So yeah, I wasn't available for that particular project that he had in mind, but hopefully maybe we can get together for some stuff coming up. So do check that out. Reflected does some great campaigns, of course, and if you haven't seen the Speed and Angels campaign, I thoroughly recommend that. That is for the F-14B, and I really am going to try and do a video on that particular campaign because, as it's already been pointed out, and as Reflected has posted too, somebody made a mention of just how great that campaign is, because it's one of the few campaigns that we have right now that actually teaches you how to fly the F-14 properly. And there aren't really a whole lot of campaigns that technically do that. That is, the handling of the aircraft, how to fly it within the parameters of which it was designed to do. And so you'll find yourself having to concentrate on different things. A lot of these modern aircraft, you end up being kind of a HUD baby, focusing, on the information that's right in front of you. It's a great tool, of course, but that means you're missing some of the other parameters with which you should be measuring your aircraft's performance, the G-meter, your ADI and all that kind of stuff. There's a scan process that a lot of pilots use to make sure that they're on target. And I really like what Reflected and Paco Gricci have done with that campaign to teach you, as I said, how to actually fly the aircraft rather than just go through the motions of doing some of these missions that you get in many of the campaigns. And those campaigns are nonetheless fun, but this was one of the first times I've actually seen somebody teach you how to technically fly the F-14 properly, and that was a whole new awakening for me, and I really, really enjoy what they're doing there. So again, anything by Reflected is typically pretty darn good, and that's not to take away from many of the other campaign makers, obviously Baltic Dragon as well, renowned for producing excellent campaigns, and the two of them are getting together for a Kola Peninsula campaign coming up here as well, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that. Let's turn then to Ground Pounder Sim, who's also renowned for producing excellent campaigns, and this is the Kerman campaign, and you'll be joining Detachment B of the US Marine Corps, Harrier Squadron VMA 311, as they embark on the Kerman campaign over the Persian Gulf. This is in the 2011 Arab Spring era, which has sparked civil unrest across Southwest Asia, and this has led to violent Iranian repressions of its citizens. This chain of events has led to the formation of a US-led coalition and the launch of Operation Persian Freedom. The Kerman campaign puts you in the shoes of USMC Captain Mike Mickelson as the Harrier pilot of Det B to fight to protect his fellow Marines on the ground. The highly immersive and exciting campaign is set across 11 missions, and it features a standalone story set within the Operation Persian Freedom campaign storyline. Cool. The Kerman campaign will push virtual Harrier pilots to the limits as they experience intense and detailed close air support operations. Of course, the Harrier, another fantastic aircraft for that kind of role, the casseroles, which are a lot of fun. Lastly, here we have the Inherent Resolve campaign. This is by Looking Glass, and this is an exciting and player-friendly Hornet campaign which takes place on the Syria map. Join the multinational coalition to fight against ISIS in 13 epic missions that are suitable for flyers at all skill levels. It's a nice entryway to get into the game. You are Striker, a rookie deployed to Incirlik Air Base with your wingman Jazzman. This progressive campaign utilizes a wide range of target locations and airfields such that you'll be bombing some of the most interesting parts of the map. The action piles up fast as you navigate your way through a series of dramatic and exciting missions that you will enjoy playing again and again. Mission briefs are quick and easy, and it comes supplied with kneeboards, mission PDFs, and associated imagery. These 3 new campaigns are planned for the next open beta update, as I said before, and will provide you with some new gameplay from these talented DCS campaign makers. Stay tuned for more information, and yeah, let me know what you think about that. Let me know if there's a campaign that you enjoy that's already in existence. As I said, I mentioned the Speed and Angels campaign. The Raven 1 campaigns are absolutely fantastic. These are by Baltic Dragon, with input from real-world pilots, former F-18 pilots like Jello, and of course Kevin Miller, the author. And the last one also featured some voiceover work and input from Ward Carroll. Really, really cool that we have these former pilots willing to lend their expertise to these historical missions, really, and what kinds of things were going on in the world during the era of the aircraft that we are enjoying flying. So it gives us a little taste of realism and a little extra challenge too in some cases, and I really enjoy this level of immersion in the game. Let me know if you agree. And that really rounds out, unfortunately, this week's newsletter. Just a short one. Obviously, the coming newsletter will feature, no doubt, a fairly decent change log, and we'll be able to look at that new ARC 210 radio for the A10C, which is cool. And yeah, it's been a busy week. Feels like it's been 2 weeks for some reason. Actually, the last month has been pretty challenging, I must say. Not a lot of time for flying and just a lot going on. Had some interesting real-world events recently where, well, a Toyota technician tried to kill me because they failed to put the brakes back together on my car. And after a spell, something literally fell off the vehicle, or at least it was still plugged into the vehicle, but it wasn't working. And the brake pedal went down to the floor as I was exiting the freeway at about 70 miles an hour, which was pretty exciting for a period. Fortunately, I'm a pretty good driver and was able to slow the car down using the semi-automatic gearbox. Not the kind of thing you want to happen. It was a bit of a pucker moment. We got that resolved. That might be the subject of a separate video, but all's good now. We had some words. And it was a productive discussion with the car company who did the the work or failed to do the work. That's been rectified now. So yeah, sometimes you have some interesting experiences. Yeah, it kind of brought it home for me a little bit in terms of that, because I was like, yeah, these things happen in the aviation world too, and the results can be absolutely catastrophic where people, human beings make mistakes. We're fallible. Yeah, like I said, that might be the subject of a separate video. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and just a short one, like I said. Some really interesting campaigns coming up. I'm still waiting, of course, like you, for the F-15E. We're seeing more videos from Baltic Dragon and others, lots of shots from Ron Zambrano of this fantastic looking aircraft. We're also waiting for core engine updates from Eagle Dynamics in terms of the multi-threading stuff that we've already talked about late last year and the beginning of this year. So there's a lot to look forward to still this year, and I will keep you up to date as much as I can, barring real world events. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Cheers. Take care. This is Prickly Hedgehog out.
Com check on 305.
I'm clear. Nellis traffic on 41 2810's taking runway 3 right for departure. We'll be off GD west, Nellis.